You want to listen to a podcast?
By who?
Georgia GOP Congressman Doug Collins.
How is it?
The greatest thing I have ever heard in my whole life.
I could not believe my ears.
In this house, wherever the rules are disregarded, chaos and mob rule. It has been said today, where is bravery? I'll tell you where bravery is found and courage is found. It's found in this minority who has lived through the last year of nothing but rules being broken, people being put down, questions not being answered. And this majority say, be damned with anything else. We're going to impeach and do whatever we want to do. Why? Because we won an election. I guarantee you, one day you'll be back in the minority and it ain't going to be that fun.
All right, folks, welcome to another edition of the Doug Collins Podcast. I am Chip Lake. I am guest hosting today, and I am pleased to be joined, as always, by James. And James, we are without our fearless leader today. Doug Collins, the host of the Doug Collins Podcast, is doing far more important things today. He is getting one of his sons, I believe, married
That's
off.
right. I believe it's this weekend. Big day. I mean, I have no children.
Big day.
But I can't imagine what it's like. All right, that's his step. Now he's living his life. That's it. Once they're married, that's it.
Well, and Doug has 3 kids. And to my knowledge, this is the first wedding ceremony of the 3 kids. So I'm sure there's a lot of joy and a lot of stress going on. So we certainly wish Doug and his family
very happy for him.
And Copeland and his lovely bride the best, nothing but the best. And he will be back. He will be back next week as host. And we certainly hope everything goes well this weekend with Doug and his family.
I'm with you.
That being said, let's go ahead and talk a couple political things before we get going, James, and talk a little football, talk a little Travis Kelce, talk a little Taylor Swift. We're going to talk a little 70-20 action. We're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos and the game, the game of the week really last week, or the game that everybody's talking about outside of what happened in Kansas City and Arrowhead. But before we get into that, couple developments this week. You guys probably touched on it on Wednesday's show, but I didn't have an opportunity to hear it, and we'll get to that second. But James, have you paid much attention to the deterioration within the Republican House caucus going into what is going to be a very busy weekend for them when they can either pass a stopgap bill to continue funding the government, or they don't, at which time I believe at midnight on Saturday we'll be in another showdown. But the relationship between Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy looks like it is, how do we say, a lot like the Republican debate was yesterday between Nikki Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy.
So you're saying no love whatsoever?
None. I mean, we should all strive to find somebody that loves us as much as Matt and Kevin hate each other right now. Olivia Beavers with Politico reported yesterday and followed up this morning that, the tense showdown between Kevin McCarthy and Matt Gaetz now includes legal action from the Speaker's office over allegations concerning a social media campaign. Evidently, Matt Gaetz had a Republican operative reach out to him yesterday and claim that a McCarthy proxy reached out to him and tried to pay him to promote a social media post against Gaetz and the government shutdown. Gaetz responded to the allegation by calling McCarthy pathetic. We are recording this show on a Thursday. Obviously, the podcast will not run, James, until tomorrow, which is Friday. But there was a Republican conference meeting this morning, and obviously those Republican conference meetings are close to the press. But stuff leaks out of those meetings, and it did already, that there were a lot of expletives thrown Gaetz' way, and it looked like it looked like McCarthy attacked him and said, I don't know what you're doing with your time, but I'm giving $5 million to help keep our majority and grow our majority in Congress. But it doesn't look like Matt Gaetz is on board with whatever Kevin McCarthy's doing. What are your thoughts?
Well, because I do this show, I do a lot of shows. I produce a lot of shows, and Doug is the one person I know that's always obviously got his ear to the ground. He's talked about the shutdown a couple times, and he's talked about it in the past. And like you, he's in it. He's lived it, and I love reading headlines like they're saying that what you said today is like they called it fireworks on Fox. Which is such a nice way to say that these guys just cussed each other out in a private meeting. Because I've been doing this so long, like, has anyone's name been dragged through the mud as often as McCarthy's been in the last 2 years? I mean, outside of like presidents.
No, and we talked about it, I think, last week or the week before. I mean, is it really a surprise that we find ourselves as a party where we are today in the House? Given given how long and how many ballots it took to get him to be Speaker, right? We knew there would be a point in time. Probably before now. I mean, we're at the end of September. We're almost into, the fourth quarter of the year. We will be next week. I candidly thought we would be where we are today, maybe a couple months ago. And I think it's kind of inevitable. And, Matt Gaetz got up on the floor of the House early this week, and basically challenged the Democrats and said, look, y'all talk this talk about the Speaker. I'm going to give you an opportunity. And he basically said, I'm going to introduce a resolution to vacate the office of the chair. And I got to think that he will. And, I don't have a crystal ball to know how that turns out, but I do know it's likely going to be messy, and it's not going to make us look really good.
Yeah. I know there's always been this, how do I put it? Doug always says that the fighting between Republicans and there's no fighting between Democrats. And that's why he finds that they succeed so often. Yeah. And
well, I would agree with that assessment. They air their dirty laundry out privately, and they're better at keeping it in-house.
Right. They're the New England Patriots. All the garbage stays where it is.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, this is just again, it's funny because for me, and I don't know how you I don't know how a government shutdown affects me personally, right? Because the government should shut down. I don't know anything. I don't know what's going on. Yeah. But there are a bunch of people that are affected, and we don't really think about it that too often because if it doesn't affect you, it's the same thing for life. If it doesn't affect you, it's not. You don't really think about it as often. And this situation's just gotten so out of hand. It's just I just never understood them in the first place. I try to avoid listening to it all the time because I have to work in it. But yeah, it's crazy right now.
So give us your thoughts, James. You think the government shuts 100%. Down Sunday, and if so, for how long?
See, that I don't know how long because I don't remember how long was the last one.
I think there's been, let's see, I was chief of staff to Lynn Westmoreland. I came on Lynn's staff in January 95. I worked for him through 2011, and I think we went through 2 shutdowns during that period. And I think there was one in late 2011. I don't know if that was the last
one in 2018. There was one in 2018.
Okay.
And it lasted 35 days. It was the longest government shutdown in history. Now, that could be a trend, though, because I don't know the other ones, right? So, it could just be this is just going to continue and get longer.
Yeah, I don't know that we can afford to have it go longer, right? I think
we definitely we definitely can't, whether it is or won't,
because we could always blame Democrats in the past, and sometimes the American people were on our side and understood where we were coming from and understood the role that the Democrats were playing in shutting down the government. But I don't know that we have that this year, right? We can't blame Democrats for shutting down the government. So I think we does shut down.
Right. Because they can blame McCarthy now because he's Republican.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like that. You can only blame yourself. And that's
I'm putting the over under at 13 days. And I hope,
is that Vegas's over under?
No, I haven't seen Vegas over under, but I do believe one will exist. I mean, I haven't
gamble. Of course it will.
Yeah, I haven't gone on to predictit.com, but I bet it's probably a line that they're going to have, and I'm gonna unofficially set the line at 13 days, and I hope it's the under, because 13 days, if I'm putting money on it, James, that's the number that I don't know whether I'd go over or under. So I'm gonna say 13 days, and on next week's show, I think there's a high degree of likelihood that the government will be shut down.
So because only because I consider you more of an expert than I am. What has to be done between now and the time of the shutdown to avoid it?
Well, there has to be a stopgap funding bill approved by the House that's approved by the Senate and signed by the president. And, what we call a continuing resolution. And there are, a handful of Republicans in the House, Matt Gaetz, Lauren Boebert, Eli Crane, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't believe has said definitively that she would never vote for another CR, but she has said she will not vote for a CR that includes funding for Ukraine, which is one of the reasons she was a no on the defense spending bill. And so, all it takes is 4 or 5 Republicans to bring it down. And so those things have to happen by Sunday, and I just don't see them happening.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it's a wrap, and with the government will shut down, and it'll be our topic for a couple weeks, and we'll have everyone on that we can to try to explain. The thing is, we'll have people on to explain it to us, and they'll explain what you just said in 30 minutes, which will be boring. You gave us the right notes. Like, that's all we need to know. It's like, They're not going to go for it. It's not going to happen. We're going to get shut down. End of conversation.
That's right. Let's change gears, James. Under the category, I'm going to put this next one under the category of fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. United States Senator Robert Menendez, and I know you guys probably talked about this on Wednesday, but the news was just coming out on Wednesday. He went through this same thing 4, 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Went through a criminal proceeding for bribery charges. And he did not get exonerated. He did not get found not guilty. It was a hung jury, and the Justice Department decided that they would not retry the case. And so, if you go through, one would think if you went through an experience like that, James, where you are a defendant in a criminal proceeding in a federal courthouse for bribery, that you might conduct yourself in the future a little bit differently than how you've conducted yourself in the past.
But when you get away with something,
Menendez is the exception to that. I mean, isn't that crazy?
Now, I don't have all the details, but I know he took a couple things. There was something about a car that came out. I'm trying to remember what it was about what he had.
Mercedes-Benz.
What? Yeah, I don't. Yeah, again, it's just, first of all, as a native New Jerseyan, congratulations, we've done it again. It's so fun. I love hearing just you get in a position. This is what always scares me, is like, because people in positions of power like that, once they get away with it once, there is nothing stopping them from doing it again. And you said he's got a pattern. He's a repeated offender in a sense.
It's even worse than that, James. When you listen to the senator's comments in his press conference, he truly believes he doesn't done anything wrong, and I don't think he's spinning.
Yeah, I don't have any quotes here. I don't know if you do, but it's just here's something I like, though. It says, this is how crazy things are, though. Should Latinos defend Senator Bob Menendez? What does that have to do with someone who's done something wrong?
I know.
I just
And,
this is the stuff I read and I get upset. Like,
so Menendez has a new wife. Arslanian is her name. And in June of last year, officials raided the apartment that they shared in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. And listen to what they found. They found more than $100,000 in gold bars. I mean, who amongst
that
us
was
doesn't
it.
have $100,000 in gold bars laying around the house?
Yeah, everyone's got that in their backyard, right?
Of course, $480,000 in cash. Think about how
Massive
heavy
money.
that is.
That's massive money.
$480,000 in cash. And then his wife's safety deposit box had another $70,000 in it. And Arslanian, who is the name of his wife, was unemployed when she met Senator Menendez.
Oh.
But after marrying the senator, she created a company called Strategic International Business Consultants. And because she created this company, because his wife is allowed to conduct herself in business, even though she had absolutely no experience or background in foreign policy. And her new husband is chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. She sets up a shell company to receive bribery payments, to have her husband engage in official acts to help the government of Egypt on behalf of 3 businessmen in New Jersey. I mean, you can't make this stuff up.
That's spitting in your face.
Yeah.
That's like setting up a credit card for your baby.
Yeah, that's right.
He's been buying. He's just really into the stock market right now. This is someone with zero experience in the business world. Let's give her a business. It's hers. It's not my name. It's her name. Let's go and have. First of all, what a random. Just like, I know it's just like, oh, he works with Egypt and makes a ton of money with Egypt. Like, such a random place
It
for that.
happened.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like it's Dubai or something like that. Like, it's very funny. Like, first of all, the gold bars are killing me every time I think about it. Just because, like, first of all, somebody had to see them move that in there, right?
Well, when he returned from Egypt, James, the day he returned from Egypt with these gold bars, do you know what Google search he did on his computer that the FBI has?
Oh my God.
How much are gold bars worth? So look, and they have his wife on a wiretap with the relative saying, quote, my new company, every time I'm the middle person for a deal, I am asking to get paid, and this is my consulting company. So they literally think because they incorporated the company that makes the company legal in the eyes of the law. Not to mention the fact that once again, her husband is doing what you're not allowed to do as an elected official, and that is conducting official acts on behalf of a foreign government in return for something of value. And I'm not a lawyer, James, but that's a bribe.
How do you? It is no. You don't have to be a lawyer. You know what? We'll get Doug. We'll see if Doug's available real quick. He can just say yes. It's a bribe.
That's a bribe.
How do we go about removing someone like this?
Well, it's interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up because it's funny to watch the Democrats try to play the moral high ground. I mean, a lot of Democrats have called for him to resign, and they, in the same breath, they go on and talk about how this separates them from the Republican Party and Donald Trump because we're calling for Senator Robert Menendez to resign. Well, make no mistake about it, James. New Jersey has a Democratic governor. And if Robert Menendez were to resign, then a Democratic governor would get to fill that seat. Make no mistake about it.
Sure, right. It's not. It's yes. On
it's
paper,
very convenient.
like, oh, they're doing the right thing, but we all know it's to move into position of power.
That's right.
So,
that's exactly right.
It's such a crazy story, but like also, it's New Jersey, and I know they call us the
What do you
Garden
expect?
State, but sometimes we're the garbage state. And we have, listen, I hated Chris Christie when he was in and all the things that he went through. I couldn't stand it. It was so annoying. I mean, first of all, the shutdown of bridge, and I don't even want to talk about it. That's the craziest thing in the history of New Jersey.
Yeah.
And we have more mafia blood to talk about than that. But it's just like that's just one of those things. And then you hear a story like this. And where was the where did they raid all the where did they find everything again?
In the apartment that the two of them shared in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. And that raid was in summer of 2022. I remember when that happened. I mean, so it's been over a year since, the feds raided Senator Menendez's dwelling. And, we forget, since he went through the same thing, 6-7 years back, everybody's, this Senator Menendez. I mean, what do you expect? But we didn't know he was putting his wife up to this as well. So, but now his wife is he's been married to less than a year. Now his wife is entangled with this, and I don't know that was the case. So we'll see how strong their marriage is. I'm sure the Justice Department will try to get her to flip. So
she's gonna flip. They've been married a year. She's
didn't
gonna
know
flip.
anything about it. He told me it was okay. All that stuff. Anyway, look, let's pivot. Let's talk about some football. 3 weeks of the NFL are done, and I think this week was certainly the most newsworthy week we've had in the NFL. I want to talk about two games specifically. One game in particular was the Miami Dolphins and the Denver Broncos. First of all, we didn't know, after all the concussions last year that Tua Tagovailoa had, if he would retire or he'd come back and play. And not only has he come back and played, James, but he took several martial arts classes during the offseason to learn how to fall better, to make sure that he was softening his fall on a sack, so that it protected his head a little bit. 3 weeks into the season, it sure looks like we've only seen a small body of work, as I said, 3 weeks, but it certainly looks like it's worth. They hung 70 on the Denver Broncos.
10 touchdowns.
10 in an NFL football game. I have a confession to make about that game.
Please.
I have a confession to make. I took the under in that game, which was like 51.5. That's a lot of points.
Yeah, because you knew it was like, all right, well, maybe the Dolphins will put up 30 and they'll shut out Denver or something like that.
Yeah, and Denver's not clicking yet on offense.
They're terrible. No, they're a bad football team.
Yeah, and so, I thought that was so I had to, if we're going to talk about it, I had to be fully transparent, as we always are in the Doug Collins podcast. And I had to let everybody know that my judgment was very clouded in that game, and I'm still bitter about it. The game I did not touch this week was the game between the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs and the lowly Chicago Bears. But it wasn't what happened on the field that has so many people talking.
No, it is not.
It was a guest of Travis Kelce and Mrs. Kelce, none other than Taylor Swift, who made an appearance in Arrowhead.
Was it an appearance?
By the way, James. By the way, the Kansas City Chiefs just so happened to play the New York Jets this week away.
That's right.
So how convenient is it that the Chiefs travel to East Rutherford, New Jersey, where Taylor Swift, I believe, has a house or a
she's going to be there,
or a condo. Yeah, I mean it's gonna happen again. I mean, anyway, I went through two games there and didn't give you an opportunity to talk. Give me your thoughts on the Dolphins and Broncos. And the craziness that is Kelce and Taylor Swift.
To touch on the Dolphins, do you remember last season, before the season started? Was it last season? Yeah. Tyreek Hill was talking about Tua and how accurate he was, and he never said that he was a better quarterback than Pat Mahomes, but how accurate he was. And people were like, how can you say that? Like, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then the first 3 games, Tua had a great run, and then he got hurt. And we all know the story, possibly 2 concussions, this, that, and the other thing. And people were dogging Mike McDaniels. It was kind of got out of hand, right? And they were, and the Dolphins didn't have a great season. But they look like they picked up where they started last year. But what Mike McDaniels is doing to defenses is absolutely incredible. Oh, yeah. What he's done with Tyreek Hill, he saw what Andy Reid did with Tyreek Hill. And he said, oh, well, what if I just put that up a notch? Just a tiny bit. You can't find Tyreek Hill. He scored seconds into the game. I turned on Red Zone. Yeah. I have Tyreek Hill on my fantasy team, no brag. But I saw it, and I just see a touchdown. I was like, oh, okay, great. Let's way to start the day like that. Like, they're so in tune, and they do so many things, and they have the fastest players on the planet. They showed the speed of those guys.
Yeah.
21 miles an hour each. Tyreek Hill did it twice.
Yeah.
For 4 touchdowns. That game was disgusting, and I hope we can all focus our energy not on how great Miami is, because I think they've played some like less than stellar. Besides the the Patriots, but they haven't played the best teams, right?
That's right.
They have the Bills this week. It's going to be a great game. I'm so excited.
Yeah,
I think right? I think they have the Bills.
No,
let's focus on Sean Payton.
The Dolphins play the Bills, and let's go ahead and talk about that game since you brought it up. The 2-1 Bills and the 3-0 Dolphins are playing at the stadium formerly known as the Ralph. It's now, I think, Highmark Stadium over in Orchard Park in Buffalo, and the line is Buffalo -2.5, which is an intriguing line. After the game last week, who do you like in that game, James?
I think this is Miami's ultimate moment. If the Bills lose this game, people are going to say, yeah, that Miami offense is something else. They ran into a wall. But the Bills are still a pretty decent team. If Miami loses this game, they're going to call them fakers. Yeah. They just are, because the media is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think Miami's going to win this game. I think they're going to win by 10. I think Josh Allen's going to try to push, but I just don't know what you do now that Jalen Waddle's back. I don't know what you do. I genuinely don't, because
and
you have 2 good running backs and 2 great wide receivers and a quarterback who's on the same page with every single person on that field. I think it's going to be a good game, but I still think Miami's going to win this one.
Yeah, I tell you, if you're looking at it on paper, and if you look at what happened last week, I can certainly see that happening. I always I'm a numbers guy, right? And so I always like to look at the data with respect to, where the public's betting. And over 75% of the line on this game, James, is on the Dolphins because they're an underdog. And so, anytime that happens, I always like to take the favorites. I mean, Orchard Park, New York's never an easy place to play. It's a little easier place to play in September than it is in November, right? I mean, you're not going, Miami's not going into, wind chills in the single digits. But I think that's going to be a close game. I think it could be a field goal game, and I'm going to take the Bills -2.5.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Dolphins end up winning that game.
Yeah, this could technically be a toss-up. Can I just, before we move on, talk about the Travis Kelce thing for a moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
The trend I don't know if you follow some of the trends, but like people have been a lot of girlfriends been telling their boyfriends it's amazing that Taylor Swift has put Travis Kelce on the map, and they're all getting upset like Travis Kelce has been on the map, you don't know, blah blah blah. And I know they're joking with him, but let's be honest. Travis Kelce's jersey sales went up by 400%. Was it 400% in like a couple days?
Yes.
It was some absurd number.
Yes.
I hope that we focus a little bit on the fact that like we try to avoid focusing only on her during the games. I don't mind it. I don't care. It's fine. But like I think if Vegas is smart, they put a over under on how many times they show Taylor Swift. Yeah. I would go over under 15.
Oh yeah. Look,
that's the number. Over under 15, and I'm taking the over.
Yeah, no question about it. Look, I don't have any I'm the father of 2 boys, right? I don't have any daughters,
Yeah.
so our household hasn't had any Swifties. But my wife, who is not into football, is very intrigued by this.
You can't not be.
Yeah, very intrigued by this story, and she was trying to explain to me the all that is Swifties, right? And we don't even have daughters. It's just crazy. I can't comprehend it, right? I can't comprehend it, but I don't know that I want to comprehend it, James.
No, I don't think you do. I know that, like, I remember, like, there's Beyonce. She has the Beehive, they call it.
Yes.
And I remember things like, but it's just like the way that her fan base like attacks people is the same way they do like with Taylor Swift's fan base is like, I think they went after Travis Kelce's ex-girlfriend for no reason. Like that's a bit much, and I hope that ends, but it won't because the internet's a terrible place, and we all know that.
Keep going.
But yeah, it is very funny to see the phenomenon and think about like how quickly we pivoted from Deion Sanders. He loses. Yes. Oh, good. ESPN could not have asked for a better moment. Oh, we're done with Deion for a little bit. Great. Oh, wait, look who shows up. Taylor Swift in the stands at Arrowhead. Unbelievable timing. And also, can we just take a moment to talk about just this, the Chicago experiment with why am I blanking? Justin Fields is over, correct? Fields.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because that parlays me into the next game that I wanted to discuss, which is the winless Denver Broncos and the winless Chicago Bears. Something has to break this weekend, James, because unless they tie, which is a possibility, one of those 2 teams has to leave Soldier Field on Sunday with a win. Who do you think it's going to be?
I feel like I guess I trust Russell Wilson more than I trust Justin Fields, and that's my answer. But it's not like I guess I don't understand Eberflus's play calling or whoever's doing the play calling for that team. Justin Fields has obviously got some sort of either confidence problem or he is just not as good of a passer as we had hoped. But you're taking away the thing he's great at, and that seems absolutely insane to me. That's like, oh, well, you know, we'll just we don't want Tyreek Hill to run out in space. We want to just have him run behind the line. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you have a purebred athlete. Like, he is a full force monster with the ball in his hand when he's running. Find a way to make it happen. And then you can open up and he can get some few open passes. Poor DJ Moore. That man had a chance to be a star when he was in Carolina. We looked at him, you're like, that guy's got it. He goes to any other team right now with a decent quarterback. He's just that good. And Chicago traded for him. Now, we can't say they should have taken Anthony Richardson or they should have taken a different quarterback this year because they all haven't played amazing. But they might be at the bottom again. And that you move on from Justin Fields and you take Caleb or Drake, you take somebody else. You absolutely have to. It's not up for debate. And I hate seeing Sean Payton win because I hated the Saints because they beat the Vikings. But it's showing that it's pretty hard to win without Drew Brees and Bountygate. So
yeah. Well, and look, I mean, if I have to pick one of those teams, if you put a gun to my head, I don't want to do it because I think they're both really bad football teams. But
if you're betting on this, you're an addict.
Yeah, I'm probably taking the Broncos too, and if for no other reason, the Broncos just lost a game by 50 points.
Yeah,
right.
They're fired up.
So the law of averages in sports betting says, if you're just looking at numbers. If you bet against the Dolphins this week and for the Broncos this week, at worst, you're likely going to go 1-1.
Yeah, you're right.
Against the spread, but most likely you could go, you could go 2-0. But look, it's still week 4. We still got a lot. We got a lot going on. And James, we're already, you and I have already talked. I think we're 30, 35 minutes into the show. So I was going to skip over a couple games. Let me talk fantasy football real quick.
Okay.
I always like 3 weeks into the season to take a look at who the top performers are by position in fantasy football. And it always is surprising to me because I always guess wrong. I'm going to ask you, James, 3 weeks into the season, who do you think the top 3 performing quarterbacks are in fantasy football right now?
Top 3 performing quarterbacks. Is Jordan Love one of them?
Jordan Love is in 4th place.
Okay, all right.
So the top 4, and I will accept that answer.
Okay. Is Pat Mahomes isn't one of them right now, right?
He is not, but he's in 5th place.
Okay, so
which
then
is pretty good.
I know I'm blanking out on somebody. Is Jared Goff in this conversation? Oh no, I'm sorry. What am I talking about? I am an idiot. It's Kirk Cousins. My God,
Kirk Cousins. It's Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins is the most underappreciated human being in my lifetime. And don't get me wrong, I don't love him because I know he's lost us some games as much as he's won us a lot of games. But if you look at his stats and what his defenses have done during that time, it has to be. I mean, I heard him in a press conference either this morning or the other day where he's defeated. And you can't ball out like that and ball out to Justin Jefferson, Justin Jefferson is also balling out as usual. We all knew that was going to happen.
Such a beast.
It's a tragedy. And can you give me the other 2? Because I'm curious. I feel like I'm going to blank out.
Well, one of them, I did not guess Kirk Cousins. I did guess Tua Tagovailoa, and I was correct.
Jesus, of course. He had like 1 million points left.
The guy that's second right now through 3 games in fantasy points is Justin Herbert from the Los Angeles Chargers.
That's right.
I wouldn't have guessed that.
And it's funny. I bet you that Anthony Richardson would have been in there if he didn't have to miss that game.
I bet he would have. I bet.
I want to send that to Doug so badly. Justin Herbert again. Look at Kirk Cousins, Justin Herbert, 2 great offenses that cannot figure it out.
Yes,
they are. I mean, if you ask Chargers fans, they would say we should have lost that game last week with that horrifying 4th and. Okay, I know we didn't get the ball in the end zone, but I saw him go for it on 4th, and I didn't see the field position, so I was like, "Oh, they must be near the end zone. They must be near their end zone. They just want to run it." Then they panned out on the field.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Is that our goalpost?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Wait a minute, there's no way that's a goal." And I could, if Brandon Staley doesn't lose his job this year, the Chargers are. He should lose his job now.
Yeah,
I know. I don't like calling for people's jobs, but if you're the Chargers, there is so much talent on that field. Keenan Allen has somehow been unguardable at year 10. I think is for him now. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
he's unguardable. You can't. Yeah. And somehow they have a tough time winning games. They did play the Dolphins, but both the Chargers defense is terrible. It's a fact.
Yeah, and going forward on 4th down. And then not to make it and still, win that game. I tell you what, Brendan Staley has a golden horseshoe right now.
Yeah, he sure does.
Better never do that again because
he'd have been booted out of the building.
He'd be booted out of the building. Let's transition to wide receivers. No surprise in your top wide receivers. This was the one category where you have no surprise. You've already brought up Keenan Allen. We've already talked about Justin Jefferson, and we've talked about Tyreek Hill, and those guys are dominating 1 through 3.
Is Mike Evans 4 right now?
He is. Mike Evans is 4.
I have 3 of them. I have
Mike Evans and Devontae Adams.
So I have on one team I have Keenan Allen and Tyreek Hill, and I have Devontae and Tyreek on one, and Keenan Allen and Mike Evans on the other. And they've won me games. Like, they just have. They're first of all, let's shout out Baker Mayfield real quick.
Oh yeah.
Can we shout out Baker Mayfield real quick? I know he didn't have the best game the other day, but he keeps getting Mike Evans the ball.
Yes, he does. He's getting his horse the ball. He's feeding
right.
Mike Evans his horse. One dynamic that exists with running backs that won't last much longer is there's one NFL team, and I'm going to see if you could guess it. There's one NFL team that has 2 running backs in the top 5 position categories. Do you know what that NFL team is?
All right. Did they play the Broncos this weekend?
They did. Ding, 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 ding.
If you started Devon Achane or Achane, I forgot how you say his last name. I hate you because you guessed. But if you're a fantasy player, he had 50 points.
He did. He had 0 points in week 1. He had 1.4 points in week 2, 49.3 points in week 3.
Unbelievable.
The top scoring running back right now through three regular season games is none other than the starter for the Miami Dolphins, Raheem Mostert.
Everyone said, don't draft him, don't draft him, don't draft him. And now look at you. You're all idiots.
Christian McCaffrey is in second place. No surprise. Third place was a surprise. Any guess on who's in third place?
Third place, you're talking about leading scoring
running backs in fantasy football.
It's not my boy Bijan, is it?
It is not Bijan.
He's killing me. I know it's not Jahmyr Gibbs because Dan Campbell hates doing the right thing.
Unfortunately, I have Bijan and Dan Campbell. I have Bijan and
Gibbs. I have him on the same team as well because I was like, that's perfect. All right, can you give me the conference? Maybe I can guess it. I mean,
I'm going to say they play most of their games in the Pacific time zone.
It's not. Well, it's obviously not Eckler. I'm shooting a blank. What is it?
It's Kenneth Walker III.
Oh my God! How could I forget about
Seattle Seahawks? Kenneth Walker III had 8.5 points his first game, 11 points, 17 the second game. He had 30 points. He quietly had 30 points. He had 97 yards on 18 carries, got in the end zone twice, and then he had 3 catches for 59 yards. So I always think that's intriguing. Here's what surprised me the most, and then we'll talk college. We'll talk a little bit of college football, and then we'll wrap up. Top 3 tight ends. I didn't guess one of them.
Is Sam Laporta one of them right now?
He is indeed. Detroit.
Sam Hunter Laporta. Henry one of them?
Hunter Henry's one of them. Well done.
All right, now there's a third.
Get the third then.
Luke Musgrave.
No, T.J. Hawkinson.
Oh, my God, what an idiot. I forgot that they only throw him the ball when it matters.
Hawkinson. I thought as a Vikings fan you would get that.
You see how I didn't get Kirk Cousins or T.J. Hawkinson because I'm so angry I can't watch them? I watched them throw the ball to T.J. Hawkinson in that Philly game like 65 times.
Yeah.
And it didn't even come to my mind. Yeah, that's T.J. Hawkinson's a dog. Like, he's really good. It's still surprising that offense can't win football games.
No, it is.
Can we talk about the biggest disappointment right now for me, though? And maybe you feel it too, is Darren Waller. It's not his fault.
It's not his fault.
He's their only receiver.
Yeah.
And as they call him, Vanilla Vic is missing him by about 50 yards on every throw. It is unbelievable how bad Daniel Jones has been with Darren Waller.
I hate him. I'm a big Darren Waller
fan. And he's targeting him too.
He grew up 5 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. He's a Metro Atlanta kid and just a good kid. Comes back and does great things in the community. And
I love that.
I was really hoping for good things, but none of the big name tight ends are really balling out. I mean, Kelsey's fourth, but Mahomes will start getting him the ball more.
Andrews has been a bit of a disappointment as well.
Yeah, that's right. Well, James, look, we're 40 minutes into the show.
That's fine. We can do this for 10 hours if you want.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I'm going
shoot.
to talk about one college football item before
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so one thing's going to happen this week that has never happened before, and that is ESPN Game Day, the road show that comes in and broadcast live from 9 to noon Eastern time on campus, is traveling to Durham, North Carolina, and will be on the campus of Duke University. Not for a basketball game.
Not for a basketball game.
For a football game. Duke, the 17th ranked team in the country, is 4-0, and they're playing Notre Dame. And something I think also that hasn't happened is that the game day crew will be covering a team 2 weeks in a row. I don't know that that's ever happened, but obviously they were in South Bend last week for the Ohio State Notre Dame game,
right,
which was a thriller. And it's like they're following Notre Dame now, and they're going to Durham. Duke is 4-0, 17th in the country. Notre Dame with that razor thin last play loss to, Ohio State at home is 11. They're 4-1. Notre Dame is a 6-point favorite on the road. What are your thoughts, James?
Well, Notre Dame's coming off a tough one because I think a lot of people thought they should have won that game, right? You could argue it. Especially the hype of the pre-hype for that game was fantastic. Let me just say, Pat McAfee, you're a genius. But man, I think coming off that game, not that Duke's not ready for Notre Dame. I don't know who Duke has played so far, but you said they're the 7th ranked team in
17th.
College.
They're the 17th ranked. Yeah.
So they're still ranked, which is insane for Duke, right? I mean, remember what last time we cared about Duke was when they ran that was it Duke who ran that absurd what do you call it? Last play. I feel like I'm blanking out on it where they just kept pitching it back to each other and they weren't sure if it counted. Was that Duke? I feel like
I don't know if that was Duke. I think that might have been somebody else, but I don't know who that was.
I'm just remembering the blue and white. But anyway, that's great. I mean, I love when a team that maybe isn't supposed to be there is there. But Notre Dame, they're a really good football team. They lost to a really good football team. I think it'll be close, but see, the 6 points is easy. That's a touchdown in this end of game. That's why I always get scared of those numbers. That's one touchdown, the other team doesn't score, 7 points, you lose.
Yeah, and I always like taking when ESPN Game Day shows up and there's a home dog. I always like taking the home dog.
Yeah,
it's like taking the home dog on Monday night, right? You're going to win 2 out of 3 times.
Right. So listen, I'm with you. I think that's going to be great, and I also I didn't know that. I didn't even know that Duke could. It's inconceivable to me that Duke could be ranked in anything other than basketball and lacrosse.
It is. I tell you, it is. But right now, if you look at where Duke's basketball program is and where their football program is, their football program now is outperforming where their basketball program is.
No Mike Krzyzewski, no Likey.
That's it, man. It's just a different time. Well, James, our time has flown by today, as it always does, and I know. We had several topics that I know you and I were hoping to get to that we didn't have an opportunity to get to, but I think we've rambled on for 45 minutes, and we got to call it a day. But I want to thank everybody for listening into the Doug Collins podcast, and Doug will be back next week, as we talked about in the beginning. Very important week for Doug this week. So if you're listening, shoot him a congratulations, good luck on his son Copeland getting married. James, I'll let you have the last word.
Listen, everybody, enjoy the weekend. Great football this weekend. And Doug, if you're listening, which I know you're not because you're busy, enjoy it. These moments don't come around too often.
Hey, folks, when you look out and you see the country and just the disarray it is, you see the Biden administration, you see the wholesale prices have just went through the roof again. Inflation is tearing us up. If you have your finances all impinged in just a few areas, if you're just in stocks and bonds and you're not diversified, I got some news for you. You need a navigator. You need somebody to help you get to where you need to go with those finances. And I can't think of anybody better to do that than my friends at Legacy Precious Metals. You need precious metals in that portfolio. You need gold and silver. And Legacy Precious Metals, the folks there, they're the navigators. They know how to deal with tough times. They know and how to look ahead and take your personal situation and make it something that can be workable for you in the long term, because that's, at the end of the day, that's the one you're most concerned about. You need to make sure that your personal finances and your retirement are secure. You need folks like Legacy Precious Metals helping you in that. They will take the time to learn you. They'll learn your finances. They'll learn where your investment goals are, and they'll help you get there. And metals and gold right now, in this kind of crazy inflation, in this kind of crazy economy with the Biden's economy, is just, you need that help. And Legacy Precious Metals is the one to do that. So give Legacy Precious Metals a call, 866-528-1903, 866-528-1903, or you can always visit them online at legacypminvestments.com, and you can download their free investor's guide. Legacy Precious Metals, they're the ones you need. They're the navigators to help you through these turbulent times. But it's MyPillow's 20th year anniversary, and over 80 million MyPillows have been sold. Mike Lindell and MyPillow wants to thank each of you and every one of you for giving you the lowest price in history on their MyPillows. You will receive a queen-size MyPillow for $19.98. Regular price is $69.98, and just $10 more for a king size. You will receive deep discounts on all MyPillow products, such as bed sheets, mattress toppers, pet beds, mattresses, my slippers, and so much more. This is a time to try out something other than the amazing products that you've had your eye on. Go to mypillow.com, click on the radio podcast square, and use the promo Collins, Collins, to receive this amazing offer on the queen size MyPillow for $19.98, or call 800-986-3994. This offer comes with a 10-year warranty and 60-day money-back guarantee. It's time to start getting the quality sleep you deserve. You know how I know that? Because I sleep on a MyPillow every night. Go to mypillow.com and use promo code Collins, Collins, or call 800-986-3994 today.